Imagine this scenario. The power has been out for 12 hours. The temperature inside your home is plummeting. You instinctively grab every blanket you own, pile them onto your bed, and huddle underneath, believing you are safe. But what if I told you that this exact instinct could be a fatal mistake? What if I told you that 65% of people who freeze to death in winter storms are not found outside in the snow, but are discovered right inside their own homes, tucked under layers of blankets, surrounded by the people they love? It is a terrifying statistic, but it is the truth. There is a silent killer in your home during a blackout, and it comes from a direction you least expect. It is not just the freezing air around you, it is the floor beneath you. The cold, hard surface under your feet, and your bed steals body heat 25 times faster than the air does. And what if I told you that almost everything you have been taught about surviving a winter blackout is not just slightly wrong, it is potentially fatal? Let's look at the tragedy of Winter Storm Uri in Texas. 246 people lost their lives. The heartbreaking reality is that most of them were inside their own homes. They had blankets. They followed the conventional advice. They bundled up. They stayed inside. And yet, they still froze to death. Why? Because there is a fundamental misunderstanding of physics that most people do not realize until it is too late. Blankets do not create heat. They are not heaters. Their only job is to trap the heat that your body produces. But here is the problem. In a freezing house, your body, which produces about 100 watts of heat at rest, cannot compete with the relentless cold that is stealing that heat from every single direction. It is a losing battle. The methods that actually save lives are not the ones you hear on the evening news. I have dug deep into military survival manuals and serious prepper archives to find 9 specific strategies that actually work. These are the life-saving hacks they do not want you to forget. First, you need to understand the physics of why blankets fail. Before we can fix the problem, we have to understand why the traditional approach is dangerous. Your body is like a small heater. At rest, it puts out between 80 and 100 watts of energy. Think of it as a single old-fashioned light bulb. When you start shivering, that output jumps to maybe 200 or 250 watts. But that is it. That is all the heat you have to work with. Now, a blanket works by creating a layer of dead air around you to trap that heat. But in a house without power, the temperature drops by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit every single hour. Within 12 to 24 hours, the inside of your home drops to dangerous, life-threatening levels. Your 100-watt body is fighting a war against the walls, the windows, the ceilings, and especially the floors, which are all hemorrhaging heat into the frozen outdoors. The math simply does not work in your favor. But the deadliest part, the part that catches everyone off guard, is the ground beneath you. This is simple thermodynamics. Cold floors conduct heat away from your body 25 times faster than cold air does. You could stack 10 heavy wool blankets on top of yourself, but if you are lying on a cold floor or a mattress that has no insulation underneath it, you are draining heat faster than your internal furnace can produce it. This is precisely why such a high percentage of hypothermia deaths happen indoors. People wrapped themselves up thinking they were insulated, but they were slowly freezing from below. Now that you understand the danger, let me show you what actually works. This brings us to the second point, the one-room survival strategy. This is arguably the single most critical method I am going to teach you today. When the lights go out and the furnace stops, your first instinct is usually to try and keep the whole house warm. That is wrong. Unless you have a massive industrial generator and endless fuel, heating a 2,000 square foot home is impossible. Instead, you need to think like a submarine captain facing a breach. You seal off everything except one single compartment. Here is why this works. A typical house might be 2,000 square feet. A single interior room is maybe 150 to 200 square feet. That is 10 to 15 times less space you have to keep warm. Remember that 100 watts of heat your body produces? Add your spouse, that is another 100 watts. Add your kids, maybe 50 to 70 watts each. In a large house, that heat disperses instantly and is lost. But in a small sealed room, that combined body heat becomes a significant heat source. Here is how you execute this properly. Pick an interior room. Ideally, choose one with no exterior walls, because exterior walls bleed heat directly to the outside. Interior rooms are buffered by other rooms in the house, adding layers of protection. Seal the door frame. Use rolled-up towels or duct tape at the bottom gap to stop drafts. Cover the windows with thick, heavy blankets or plastic sheeting to create an extra thermal barrier. Bring everyone into that one room. Your combined body heat, which might total 200 to 400 watts, now has a fighting chance to warm that smaller volume of air. This single strategy extends any emergency fuel supply you have from days to weeks because you are no longer heating a house. You are heating a lifeboat. Every other method we discuss works exponentially better once you are inside your one-room fortress. Now that you have secured your perimeter, we move to the third strategy, which is the indoor tent trick. This method might sound a bit ridiculous at first, pitching a camping tent inside your bedroom. But once you understand the thermodynamics, you will realize it is actually genius. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll of heat conservation. You have your house, which is cold. You have your sealed room, which is warmer. And then inside that room, you have a tent, which creates a critical microclimate. Here is the data that changes everything. When 2 or 3 people sleep inside an enclosed tent, their combined body heat alone can raise the interior temperature by 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the rest of the room. So, if your sealed room is hovering at a chilly 45 degrees, the inside of that tent can easily reach a comfortable 60 or 65 degrees. That is the massive difference between shivering through the night risking hypothermia and sleeping soundly. The science is simple. A tent drastically reduces the volume of air your body needs to heat. Instead of trying to warm an entire room, you are now only heating a tiny space of about 30 to 40 square feet. The fabric of the tent traps that warm air and prevents it from rising to the ceiling where it does you no good. If your tent has a rainfly, put it on. It acts as an additional radiant barrier, reflecting even more heat back down to you. The execution is straightforward. Set up the tent inside your designated survival room. For extra efficiency, throw heavy blankets over the top of the tent to add another layer of insulation, creating a dead air space between the tent fabric and the blanket. Everyone sleeps inside. If you do not own a camping tent, do not worry. You can build a classic blanket fort. Drape heavy sheets over a sturdy table or a circle of chairs. The principle remains exactly the same. Create the smallest possible airspace for your body heat to warm up. And here is a psychological bonus that is often overlooked. If you have young children, this turns a terrifying blackout crisis into a fun indoor camping adventure. Keeping morale high is just as important as keeping the temperature up. This leads us directly to number 4, the ground barrier rule. This is the mistake where most people fail without ever knowing why. Remember the statistic I mentioned earlier? The ground steals heat 25 times faster than the air. This phenomenon is called conductive heat loss, and it is the silent assassin in every winter power outage. You can pile 10 heavy wool blankets on top of your body until you can barely move, but if your back is pressed against a cold mattress or the floor, you are pumping your precious body heat directly into the ground like water from a broken faucet. To survive, you need ground insulation, and you need a lot more of it than you might think. Survival experts measure insulation using something called R value. For winter survival sleeping, you typically need an R value of 4, 5, or even higher. To give you some context, a standard thin yoga mat only has an R value of about 0.5. That is 10 times less protection than you actually need to stay safe. Here is how you build a proper, life-saving ground barrier using items you likely already have in your home. Think in layers. Layer 1 should be a tarp or a plastic sheet on the floor. This creates a moisture barrier because wet insulation is dead insulation. Layer 2 is for bulk. Use cardboard, thick stacks of newspapers, or area rugs. Flattened cardboard boxes are incredible insulators because of the air pockets inside the corrugated material. Layer 3 is for comfort and loft. Use couch cushions, foam padding, or multiple folded comforters. Finally, layer 4 is your sleeping bag or the blankets you sleep directly on. You want a minimum total thickness of 2 to 3 inches of material beneath you. Here is a simple test to know if you have built enough insulation. Lie down on your setup. If you can still feel the cold from the floor seeping through your layers within 5 minutes, you do not have enough. Add more cardboard or blankets immediately. The ground is not your friend in this scenario. Treat it like an enemy that is trying to steal your life energy 1 degree at a time. Next up is number 5, the hot water bottle technique. This method is centuries old. Your great-grandmother used it to survive winters before central heating, but somehow we have forgotten this ancient technology. A simple hot water bottle placed inside your sleeping bag can stay warm for 6 to 8 hours. In a high-quality, well-insulated sleeping bag, some people report retaining warmth for up to 12 hours. That is an entire night of supplemental heat generated from boiling water just once. Why does this work so effectively? It comes down to physics again. Water has an incredibly high heat capacity. It acts like a thermal battery, absorbing enormous amounts of energy and releasing it very slowly over time. A single bottle radiates steady, comforting warmth directly into your core sleeping area while you rest. To execute this, you need a way to heat water. This implies you should have an alternative heat source like a camp stove, an outdoor grill, or a propane burner. However, a critical safety warning. Never use these combustion devices indoors without proper ventilation due to the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Heat the water outside or in a well-ventilated garage, then bring it in. Fill a rubber hot water bottle or a hard plastic Nalgene-style bottle. The water does not need to be boiling. In fact, 140 to 160 degrees is perfect and reduces the risk of burns. Wrap the bottle in a thick sock or a towel. Place it between your thighs or hug it against your stomach. These are areas with high blood flow, which will help transfer that heat efficiently throughout your entire body. Here is a pro tip. Place the hot water bottle in your sleeping bag about 10 minutes before you get in to pre-warm the space. Climbing into a toasty warm bed instead of shivering while your body tries to heat up cold fabric makes a massive difference in your ability to fall asleep and conserve energy. If you lack a water bottle, you can heat smooth rocks and wrap them in cloth, or even make a rice bag if you have a way to heat it. Ancient technology still works because physics hasn't changed. Now that we have managed your immediate environment and sleep system, we need to talk about your personal armor, your clothing. This brings us to method number 6, the Colder Principle. This isn't just a random acronym. It is a protocol developed by the U.S. military, specifically designed to keep soldiers alive in brutal Arctic conditions for decades. If it works in the Arctic, it will work in your living room. Colder stands for 6 critical rules. Let's break them down. C stands for keep clothing clean. This sounds counterintuitive in a survival situation. Who cares about dirt? But you should. Dirt and body oils clog the microscopic fibers of your clothes, crushing the air pockets that trap heat. Clean clothes insulate far better than dirty ones. Remember, air is the insulator. Fabric is just the structure holding the air. O stands for avoid overheating. This is the one that confuses people the most. You are freezing, so why would you avoid getting too hot? Because in a survival scenario, sweating is a potential death sentence. If you work up a sweat while moving furniture or setting up your tent, that moisture dampens your clothes. Damp clothes lose up to 90% of their insulating ability. Once you stop moving, that sweat cools rapidly, chilling you to the bone, and you may not be able to generate enough heat to dry out. Vent your layers before you start to sweat. L stands for wear clothing loose and in layers. Tight clothing restricts blood circulation, which is the vehicle that moves heat around your body. It also compresses the insulation layers, reducing their effectiveness. You want loose layers that trap dead air between them. Each layer of trapped air is another barrier against the cold. D is for keep dry. This is the most critical letter. Wet clothing conducts heat away from your body 25 times faster than dry clothing. You must avoid cotton at all costs. In the survival community, there is a saying, cotton kills. Cotton absorbs moisture like a sponge and dries incredibly slowly, sapping your heat the entire time. E stands for examine clothing for wear. Check for holes or tears that could let heat escape. And finally, R stands for repair damage immediately. A small tear in your down jacket can lead to a major loss of insulation over time. To apply this, use the 3-layer system the military uses. The base layer should be moisture-wicking material like wool, silk, or synthetic fabrics, never cotton, to pull sweat away from your skin. The middle layer is your insulation. Think heavy fleece, wool sweaters, or down vests to trap body heat. The outer layer is your shell, designed to block wind and water. This system has kept humans alive at -40 degrees. It will keep you alive in a frozen house. Method number 7 is understanding your body as a machine, the caloric furnace. Think of your body literally as a furnace. A furnace cannot produce heat without fuel. In extreme cold, your body burns significantly more calories just to maintain your core temperature of 98.6 degrees. Here is the data that should change your emergency pantry. A normal daily caloric need might be 2,000 to 2,500 calories, but with cold exposure and mild activity, that jumps to 3,600 or even 4,000 calories. The U.S. military Arctic ration standard is 4,500 calories per day. That is nearly double what you normally eat. Every calorie you consume generates heat through metabolism. Digestion itself creates internal warmth, a process known as the thermic effect of food. Eating is literally stoking the fire inside you, but not all calories are created equal in a blackout. Fats are the superior survival fuel. Fats provide 9 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates and proteins only provide 4. Fat is more than twice as energy dense. More importantly, fats provide a slow-burning, long-lasting energy source that keeps you warm through the long winter nights. Stock your pantry with these high-heat foods. Peanut butter packs nearly 600 calories per 100 grams and requires no refrigeration. Nuts are incredible, shelf-stable energy bombs. Chocolate is excellent not just for calories, but for a critical morale boost when spirits are low. Hard cheeses can last days without a fridge, and beef jerky provides high protein. Here's a pro tip. Eat a high-fat snack right before you go to sleep. Your body will digest it throughout the night, generating internal heat while you rest. You rely on blankets to trap heat, but you must rely on calories to create it. You need both to survive. Now let's talk about generating heat externally. Method number 8 focuses on propane heaters. Everything we have discussed so far is about conserving the heat you already have. But sometimes, especially in severe cold snaps, that is not enough. You need to add heat to the equation. For indoor use, you need specific safe equipment. The gold standard for this is the Mr. Heater Buddy series. These are catalytic heaters designed specifically to be safe for indoor use. To give you a comparison of power, a single candle produces about 75 to 85 BTUs of heat. Your body produces about 300 BTUs. A portable Buddy heater on its high setting produces 9,000 BTUs. That is the heat equivalent of having 30 people or over 100 candles in your room. These heaters have critical safety features that you must have. They have a low oxygen sensor that automatically shuts the unit off if oxygen levels in the room drop too low. They have tip-over protection that cuts the gas if the unit is knocked over. However, and this is a life or death warning, indoor safe does not mean no ventilation needed. Anytime you burn a fuel, you consume oxygen and produce potential byproducts. You must crack a window slightly, just an inch, to ensure fresh airflow. Carbon monoxide is the invisible killer in winter blackouts, and we will talk more about that in a moment. For fuel planning, realize that one small 1-pound propane cylinder will run a portable heater for about 5 to 6 hours on the low setting. If you are facing a 3-day blackout, you need to stock at least 10 to 15 of these cylinders. Combined with the one-room strategy we discussed earlier, a single propane heater can keep your survival room toasty warm while the rest of the house freezes. Finally, we must discuss the death traps. I need to be brutally honest with you about what actually kills people during these events, because the same tragic mistakes happen in every single blackout. During Winter Storm Uri in Texas, 12% of the deaths were not from the cold itself, but from carbon monoxide poisoning. Dozens more were hospitalized in Tennessee during the January 2024 storm for the same reason. Nashville reported multiple fatalities simply because people were desperate to stay warm and used unsafe methods. Here are the specific killers you must avoid at all costs. First, never use your gas oven for heat. Your kitchen oven was not designed to be a space heater. When run continuously with the door open, gas ovens can malfunction, produce incomplete combustion, and rapidly fill your home with carbon monoxide. Health departments specifically warn that this is a primary cause of poisoning deaths. It is simply not worth the risk. Second, generators indoors. This should be common knowledge, yet it happens every year. Running a generator inside your home, your basement, or even in your garage with the door open can kill you in minutes. Carbon monoxide from generators is extremely concentrated and deadly. The rule is simple. Generators go outside at least 20 feet away from any window, door, or vent. Third, charcoal grills. Never under any circumstances bring a charcoal grill inside to heat your home or cook food. Charcoal produces massive amounts of carbon monoxide as it burns. It is a death sentence in an enclosed space. Fourth, running your car in the garage. Even with the garage door open, exhaust fumes can accumulate in the garage and seep into the main house. People have fallen asleep in their cars trying to stay warm and never woke up. Fifth, unattended candles. While they provide a small amount of heat and light, candles are the #1 cause of house fires during blackouts. If you fall asleep while a candle is burning and it gets knocked over, you could wake up to a tragedy worse than the cold. If you use them, extinguish them before you sleep. The survival rule is non-negotiable. If it burns fuel, it needs ventilation or it goes outside. And to protect yourself from the invisible killer, you must have a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector. CO is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. By the time you feel the symptoms, dizziness, headache, nausea, you may already be too impaired to escape. Surviving the cold means absolutely nothing if you poison yourself trying to stay warm. 246 people died in Texas. 65% of them died from hypothermia. Most of them were found indoors, wrapped in blankets, believing they were doing everything right. They didn't understand the physics of heat loss. They didn't know about the ground stealing their life force. They didn't know that blankets only trap heat, they don't create it. But now, you know. You know the strategy. You know to seal yourself into one interior room to conserve heat. You know to build a ground barrier to stop conductive heat loss. You know that your body is a furnace that needs high-calorie fuel to burn. You know that a simple indoor tent can raise the temperature by 15 to 20 degrees, creating a life-saving microclimate. You know the colder principle that has kept soldiers alive in the Arctic, and you know exactly what not to do because carbon monoxide kills just as dead as hypothermia. The next blackout is coming. It might not be this winter. It might not be in your state. But the power grid is fragile. Storms are intensifying globally. The question isn't if you will face a winter power outage. The question is when. And when that dark, freezing night comes, you will have a choice. You can either be the family huddled under blankets, shivering and wondering why you are still cold. Or you can be the family who knew the truth, executed these proven methods, slept warmly through the night, and woke up safe the next morning. The choice is yours. Stay warm. Stay prepared.